While the great powers waged wars far from Europe's shores, the continent itself began to fracture. With NATO gone and the European Union dissolved, each nation stood alone. Suspicious, uncertain, armed, in the Balkans, borders had already been redrawn in fire. Now, as smoke rose from those mountains, the cracks began to spread westward. The first tremor came in Spain. In Barcelona, officials watched the world unravel and saw their chance. Quiet talks began across the Pyrenees. Catalan envoys met with French intermediaries in Toulouse, seeking one answer: would France recognize their independence if declared? Paris responded cautiously, but not negatively. Paris, Barcelona, we do not interfere in internal matters, but nations that act with conviction often find sympathy. The message was enough. Days later, Catalonia moved. Barcelona announced independence, citing the failure of the Spanish state to preserve unity or stability. Crowds filled Plaza de Catalunya as the new flag was raised, but in Madrid, silence hung for hours until the first order came. Madrid to Barcelona. This act violates the sovereignty of the state. Withdraw your declaration immediately. Barcelona answered without delay. Barcelona to Madrid. We will not withdraw. Catalonia stands free, and our defense forces will protect our borders. Tension turned to movement. Spanish armored divisions redeployed east toward the Ebro River. Artillery was positioned near Zaragoza, covering the approach to Lleida. In response, Catalonia mobilized local defense units, setting up positions along the main highways leading toward Barcelona. The first clash came near Tarragona. Spanish columns met entrenched Catalan defenders along the coastal road. Tanks advanced under covering fire. Resistance was brief but fierce. As smoke drifted across the Mediterranean coast, Madrid sent another message, this time softer. Madrid to Barcelona. Further bloodshed serves no one. We propose talks under neutral supervision. Barcelona accepted. The front quieted. For now, Catalonia held, fragile, uncertain, but independent in all but name. News of the standoff swept across the continent. In London, the situation was followed with growing unease. The disintegration of Spain was more than a local matter. It was a sign of what might come next. Scotland had long watched for such moments, and this time, it didn't hesitate. Edinburgh announced that a new referendum would be held, citing the collapse of shared governance as justification. London refused to recognize it. London to Edinburgh. The Union remains intact. Any unilateral act of separation will be treated as rebellion. Within hours, Edinburgh replied, Edinburgh to London, then consider us no longer part of your union. British forces began reinforcing garrisons north of Newcastle. Convoys moved along the A1, establishing control points on key routes. Scottish defense units took positions near Stirling and Perth, controlling crossings to the Highlands. Tensions rose, but before a major confrontation could unfold, a new front opened. One that would force London's hand elsewhere. Across the Irish Sea, movements were underway. Dublin declared that historic divisions must now end. And under that banner, troops advanced toward the northern border. For the first time in decades, armored vehicles rolled along the roads near Newry and Armagh. London reacted instantly. London to Dublin, cease all military operations. Any incursion into Northern Ireland will be answered. The reply was short, Dublin to London. Then answer. Artillery thundered before dawn. Irish units crossed near Newry, supported by mechanized brigades moving through the countryside. British troops stationed in Belfast mobilized rapidly, forming defensive lines south of the city. Fighting erupted along the river Bann and the approaches to Armagh. Helicopters swept low over open fields, exchanging fire with Irish columns advancing north. The battle grew throughout the day. In Derry, British reinforcements arrived by sea, establishing a second defensive front. Irish forces, stretched thin, began to focus their offensive around Newry, hoping for a quick breakthrough before London could fully respond. But that response was already in motion. London to Belfast command. Hold defensive line at all cost. Air assets authorized for strike operations. Soon the roar of engines filled the skies. Precision strikes hit supply routes on the Irish side of the border, halting the offensive momentum. The push toward Newry stalled under heavy bombardment. Dublin sent an urgent appeal across the Channel. Dublin to Paris. Britain strikes Irish cities. We require support. Even diplomatic Paris hesitated, unwilling to intervene directly, but keen to weaken London's influence. Paris to Dublin. Our recognition depends on your endurance. Hold the line, and we will not stand in your way. It was a polite way of saying, survive first, then we talk. Ireland continued the fight, but momentum had shifted. British artillery now dominated the frontier, and armored columns began moving south from Belfast toward the main battle zone. As night fell, the skies glowed red over Newry. Neither side held clear advantage. The borderlands had become a maze of wreckage and smoke, dotted with burning vehicles and shattered bridges. The war in the British Isles had begun, and neither London nor Dublin could back down now. In the quiet corridors of Edinburgh, messages buzzed again. Edinburgh to Dublin. We are with you in principle. Your struggle proves that the old empires are dying. Dublin replied cautiously. Dublin to Edinburgh. Principle is fine, but we need pressure from your side to divide their forces. And as the Irish front held the British army in the west, Scotland began to quietly mobilize once more. The Isles were no longer united. Europe's fire had reached its western edge. The war in the Isles deepened through the night. Both sides bled for ground already destroyed. By morning, Newry was no longer a city, only smoke and silence. Irish brigades, low on fuel and ammunition, pulled back toward Dundalk under continuous airstrikes. London issued new orders. London to Belfast command. Push south before dawn. End the incursion completely. Columns of armor crossed the border at first light. Artillery followed, flattening resistance in the countryside. From the Irish side, desperate calls went unanswered. Dublin. Field command. Hold positions at all costs. Reinforcements are en route, but there were no reinforcements left to send. The counteroffensive hit hard. British forces encircled retreating Irish units near the M1, cutting their supply lines. Helicopters hovered low, coordinating strikes on convoys trying to escape south. Within days, organized resistance collapsed. Dublin had no choice. Dublin to London. Ceasefire proposal. Our forces will withdraw behind the border. For hours, London remained silent. Then came the answer. London to Dublin. Withdrawal accepted. Any further incursion will be met with full-scale retaliation. The guns quieted, but the hatred remained. Ireland had failed to unite the island. Britain had defended its ground. Yet the victory felt hollow. Bridges destroyed, trade frozen, border towns erased. Across the Isles, fatigue settled in. In Edinburgh, the news of Dublin's defeat spread quickly. The Scottish leadership gathered, weighing their options. Edinburgh to London. Scotland will maintain neutrality regarding the Irish conflict. We seek peaceful dialogue. London's response was colder. London to Edinburgh. Dialogue requires loyalty. Neutrality will be seen as defiance. Neither side trusted the other. Troop movements along the border resumed quietly. Patrols increased. The northern garrisons stayed alert. Britain had survived the Irish front, but it had fractured its unity further. The cracks in the Union were no longer political, they were strategic. Across the Channel, others were watching closely. In Paris, officials reviewed reports of the British mobilization and Catalonia's fragile hold in Spain. Intelligence from Prague and Warsaw spoke of movements across the German border. Unmarked convoys rolling at night, fuel depots expanding, and new communication lines stretching south toward Bavaria and Austria. Berlin denied all of it. Berlin to Prague. Routine exercises, nothing more. But the scale said otherwise. Satellite images showed entire armored formations relocating towards Saxony and Thuringia. Too many to be drills. In Madrid, there was growing unease. Madrid, Paris. Germany rearming again? Your silence is concerning. Paris to Madrid. We observe only. France will act when necessary. The continent's calm was deceptive. The war in the Isles had burned out, but the air in Europe grew heavier by the day. Old nations rebuilding armies, new states testing their borders. All in a world without NATO, without oversight, without restraint. As Britain rebuilt its shattered roads and counted the cost of victory, Germany was already preparing something far larger. The silence from Berlin was not peace, it was preparation. Europe's next fire was already warming up, and this time it would not be contained by the sea.